Hello, I'm Matthew Quilliam and welcome back to this new video. This is another ukulele video that I'm going to be doing on understanding functional harmony. Now, functional harmony is essentially a way of maintaining a key. This is useful as a listener because if your piece is changing key or you don't know what key it's going to be in to start with, then you need to be able to identify the key. It's useful as a listener if you're trying to work out how to play a piece, because if you know what key the piece you're trying to play in is in, then you can know what notes to expect that you're going to find on the fretboard. And it's also useful as a composer because it gives you sort of guidelines and ways that you can think about composing to make it sound more musical, and if you want to be in a key, how to go about being in one. First, let's do a quick little bit of background. The question, what is a key, is a question that is asked a lot, and music scholars are still debating over a definitive answer. However, if you want your piece to be in a key, and you would want that to be the case if you wanted your piece to fit into traditional Western canon, then there are lots of rules that you have to follow. These rules are everything that you learn in theory class, in school, online, when you're with your music teacher, all these things about chords, keys, progressions, melody, etc. That is all part of being in a key. You're taught in a very westernized style. However, if you think about how old and big the world is, there are so many regions that never use keys, and of course before keys were invented in around the 1600s, then people obviously used different musical systems. William Shakespeare is older than the concept of keys, and so this goes to show that music doesn't have to be in a key. All the theory that we learn is just a theory. There's no definitive way to play music. In some parts of the world, they don't even use the same notes that you can play on a ukulele. So keys aren't the definitive way to play music. Not every piece of music is in a key. In fact, most pieces in the entire world aren't in a key. Therefore, since when you immediately pick up an instrument, you're not automatically playing in a key, if you want to be in a key, then there are certain things you need to do in order to signify to the listener that you are in a key, and also to consolidate which key you're in. Of course, rules are made to be broken, so if you want to play in a key, you don't have to follow every rule that you're taught in theory class, otherwise your music's just going to sound boring and very samey with a lot of other pieces that follow the rules. Of course you've got to break the rules, but the more rules you break, the further away you go from being in a key. It's fine to break these rules, but if you want to maintain a sense of key, then there are 4 things that you can do so that your piece doesn't stray too far away from what a listener might expect to hear. These 4 things are called functional harmony. They're harmonic devices that maintain a sense of key no matter what you do elsewhere in the song. You can go anywhere you like, you can be atonal, you can change key, you can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if you want to be in a key, then you need to use functional harmony and its tips and processes in order to maintain the sense of key. The first thing you can do to consolidate the key is to use primary triads. In any given key, all the chords that you can use in that key can be grouped into a scale, much like the major scales that we see and talk about a lot. The chords in these chord scales have different qualities, whether they be minor, major or diminished. Now in a major key, we want to be playing all of the major chords so that we stay major and we don't stray into any minor keys. Therefore, the 1st, the 4th and the 5th chords in a major key are all major, and therefore they're the strongest ones that you can use in order to stay in a key. If you start using the minor chords, then you can very easily drift off into another key, or even out of key if you're not careful, especially if you're using that diminished chord over there. Therefore it's a very good idea to use the primary triads as much as possible, so that the listener doesn't forget and the piece doesn't stray too far from the home point. Chords 4 and 5, especially, they point towards the home key, the home chord, which is chord 1. I talk more about this in my Understanding Tension video, which you can watch via the link in the description. However, essentially these chords, the 4 and the 5, point towards chord 1, which is the chord that the tonality is based upon. Therefore, if we're not playing the home chord, we're at least hearing hints of what the home chord is when we're away. This is only possible using the primary triads, and it's actually why a lot of songs, especially beginners' songs, use just 3 chords. They're using the 3 primary triads that affirm a sense of key, because they're the chords that are the most natural to go to. If you're a beginner, or you've still got your beginning worksheets and music, go back and have a look and see that your pieces only use 3 chords. Well, these chords are the primary triads. They're the most natural for a composer to choose when writing a song. That's why you can get away with playing so many songs just from using a handful of chords. They're the most important chords to a key. The second way that you can consolidate a key follows on from the first, and that is to play the primary triads in root position or first inversion. See, when you take a 3-note chord, you can stack it in one of 3 ways. You can either have it in root position, which is where all the notes are a third apart, and the note that the chord is named after is in the bottom, in the bass. Or you can have it in first inversion, where you take the note that was on the bottom and put it on the top. Or second inversion, where you take the note that was at the bottom of the first inversion chord and put that on the top. Now, root position chords are considered the strongest because the note that the chord is named after is at the bottom in the bass. Bass notes are what define harmony, and if you have the note that the chord is named after in the bass, then you're very clearly using that chord, and it gives a strong sense of chord, especially if you're using a primary triad, because if the triads are affirmed and you're confident that you're in the primary triad area of harmony, then you're even more certain to be in a certain key, adding to this sense of functional harmony. First inversions are a similar thing. They are considered the second strongest, not as strong as root position. They act as somewhere you can go if you don't want to go straight to the root position, if you want to avoid the cliche. They act as somewhere else to go. But you should generally avoid playing second inversion chords. They're considered very weak and won't give you a sense of functional harmony at all. An example of this is when we're playing in the key of F. That's an F chord, but the chord is in second inversion because the F is in the middle of the chord, then the A, but the C is in the bass. A first inversion, a root position chord in F would look like this. You've got the F in the bass, and then A and C above it, with an octave F at the top there. That's why, if you play a song in the key of F, it's fine to use these chords for the most part, especially if you've got a bass player, bass ukulele player, bass guitar player, who will play the bass notes for you, so you don't have to worry about inversions. However, when you come to end the piece, it's very satisfying to go up to that high F, which is in root position. See how it's really satisfying to end there, rather than there? Because ending on this second inversion chord is unstable and doesn't give a strong sense of key compared to the root position F all the way up here. That's why playing up there can often be much more satisfying than this F here. Another point on the chords is that you can use chords 5 followed by chord 1 in order to create perfect cadences. Again, this is something I've spoken about on this channel before. If you follow the link in the description to my video on cadences, I go into a lot more depth here. But essentially, the perfect cadence is the strongest way to consolidate a sense of key by using just 2 chords. Chord 5 points directly to chord 1, meaning that if you go from chord 5 to chord 1, you get a very nice, satisfying ending, which again consolidates the sense of key. Finally, you can use things called pedal notes. Pedal notes are sustained notes that you can either sing in the vocal part, as one continuous note, or it's a repeated note that's repeated very quickly. So on my uke I'm going to play some chords, but I'm going to leave the G string open throughout the entire progression. This means that the G string the G note is a constant note that appears throughout the entire little segment of music, thus creating a pedal note. Pedal notes can either be the root note, i.e. the note that the key is named after, or 5 away, Either of these two notes, played over chord progressions, can give a very strong sense of key, as it doesn't matter how far away you go, it doesn't matter if your key chords start coming out of key, if you start going into chromatic, dissonant things. As long as you have those pedal notes there, then the chords can't go too far away from the home key, because you've always got that constant reminder of where you're going back to inevitably at the end. That's functional harmony for you. I hope that perhaps you find that useful. Just to recap, you can use primary triads, chords 1, 4 and 5, in root position and first inversion. You can use perfect cadences and you can use pedal notes, all to create a sense of functional harmony that consolidates the key you're in. If you change key, you can use some of these devices to signify that you've changed key and consolidate the fact that you're in a new key. And as I said earlier as well, if you hear any of these devices, you can be sure that they're telling you what key you're in, so that you can use this if you're trying to work out how to play something on the uke. If you've enjoyed this video and it's helped you out, please leave a comment in the comment section below. To show your appreciation, why don't you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel? The more likes and subscribers I get, the more YouTube promotes my work, which means I can continue making videos for you. You can also leave a tip, no obligation, but I do appreciate anything that comes in. I'm very grateful to those who've tipped me already. My PayPal link is in the description. If you leave a tip, it keeps me going, keeps me in these gigless times able to make more content for you, where you can learn more ukulele theory with Matthew Quilliam. Take care. However, the week after I'll be going back to tutorial videos like this one.